The conversation on this tape recording is a portion of an interview with Mr. Herbert A. Holcomb, held at his home, 9835 Murray Drive in Fletcher Hills, San Diego. Mr. Holcomb, now 67 years of age, together with Vern W. Tommy Thompson, inaugurated the San Diego Police Department's first radio station on December 1st, 1932. On that date, radio station KGZD started broadcasting messages to the department's few radio-equipped vehicles. Mr. Holcomb left the department in 1938 to become a dispatcher for the California Highway Patrol. Vern Thompson died on January 21, 1962, while still employed as radio dispatcher with the department. The interview with Mr. Holcomb and his wife was held Sunday morning, April 30th, 1967.
Here.
Car 19?
Yeah, car 19. 19 was the main car. 20 was an additional. It was stuck on afterwards. The same over here, 24. There was no car 25. 24 had to cover this whole darn area right down through here.
That's in Mission Beach and Pacific Beach.
Yeah, all the way up until it came into here, and then 26 La Jolla covered this.
Well, when you first started in 1932, you first started broadcasting, how many units did you have in the field? How many did you have? More than 2 or 3?
Oh, yes, we had more than 2 or 3. Let's see, we had the car over in the beach area. We had the Mission Hills, 19. We had 21 downtown San Diego. We had 15.
Logan Heights?
Yeah, it covered all this. It covered this 16 area too, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then we had 22 out in East San Diego, which covered all this area.
And did you have one car that worked out of La Jolla?
Yes.
Take in all of Pacific Beach and La Jolla?
That's right. That's about 6 cars there.
Okay.
There was,
What do these figures up here mean for La Mesa and vicinity? Were these cars that you were broadcasting to them also?
Yeah.
And over here in Coronado, Station A was broadcasting for the Coronado PD also?
That's right.
So in Coronado it's unit 40, 41, and 42.
Yeah.
And 46, 47, 48 for La Mesa.
Yeah.
Did El Cajon, was it on the air at that time?
No, El Cajon didn't have any cars at all at that time. The only 2 that had them was Coronado and La Mesa. And a little while later, National City put in their own little transmitter down there and put on cars, but it was quite a bit later. There was no one near at this time. But shortly after we went on the air, Coronado put in radios and so did La Mesa. And Vern used to service their cars for him. I wouldn't do it.
Out of La Mesa?
Yeah, he used to go out and do the service work on them. Whenever they had anything wrong, why? No, radio. Take care of the radio equipment.
Oh, I see.
Take care of the transmitters and receivers. But I wasn't interested in doing that kind of stuff. I wouldn't do it. It's just like when I was down here working for the state. They tried to get me to take care of when I was with forestry. See, I transferred into forestry. And from the Highway Patrol, I worked for the Highway Patrol when I left the police department. And I got out of the Highway Patrol and got into forestry. And then when they put in that radio system out at Ramona, they wanted me to take care of their equipment out there, the land station and the equipment in their cars. I went out there and advised them about it and everything and told them who they could get. I wouldn't take it. I told them no. I said, I can't work for you like that because I have to be available.
Well, I was told that the very first transmitter that you used was located in this little cement block house of some kind.
It was a cement blocks. That's right. Built of cement blocks.
That it was
and it was painted pink.
That it was that the transmitter was 100 watts.
Oh no, the transmitter was 1,000 watts, and it was built by Thompson.
Was it built by a man by the name of Paul Thompson?
No, it wasn't Paul.
That's the name I got from Eddie Simon. He seemed to think that this...
No, it wasn't Paul Thompson.
Oh, Paul Williams, rather.
No, Paul Williams didn't have anything to do with the building of it.
He said, Paul, let's see, there were originally 5 men who composed the radio crew.
He's wrong. There's only 2 men that composed the radio crew for over a year.
Was that
Vern Thompson and I?
You two for about the first year?
The station opened up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and closed down at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Then you started broadcasting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
One of us was on from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 8.
I see.
No. 2 to 10.
2 to 10, and then
10 to 6.
And 10 to 6, and you just
All
closed
right.
down.
And I happened to be the one that was on from 10 to 6 at the time when the stables caught fire up there in Balboa Park. And I saw it, reported it, and they got the fire department up there, and then I closed the station up and went up there and helped them pull a hose over there to try and get their horses out of the stables over there by the zoo.
What year was that?
That was, I think that was in 1933. No, that must have been in the latter part of 32.
All right, now you two first then worked the radio for 16 hours out of the day.
That's right.
For about the first year. Then who joined you? Did George Moore join you?
Don Good.
Don Good.
Don Good.
The names that I have were Don Good, Sam Beaudry, Paul Williams, Hal Hassenbeck, and George Moore.
Well, George Moore came on afterwards, but Hassenbeck wasn't on there all the while I worked there, and I left there in 38.
Now, who was the very next radio operator that you had? The
Don
third
Good.
one? Don Good joined you as a radio operator.
No, wait a minute. Was it George Moore or Don Good? No, I'm pretty sure it was Don Good and then George Moore. The four of them, and that's all there was when I left.
What year did you leave then?
38.
What year, what month and day, do you know?
Well, I could look in and find my papers because George Sears was chief, and I resigned and went up to Sacramento, not knowing that they had already gone in business, Highway Patrol. They already had hired TAUs. They had been working there just under 6 months. When I got up there, I was the only one that had extensive police work. And the guy that was in charge never worked for a police department even. All the guys that were working there never worked for a police department. So naturally, I knew the setup on stolen cars and how to handle all that stuff and how to handle gear. And so I was behind the 8 ball. And it happened to be, of course, everything turned out fine later on, but the guy that was the engineer in charge of the place up there, his dad was assistant chief of the Highway Patrol. Well, he naturally wanted to have his friends stay on, so I could see the handwriting on the wall. I wasn't going to last 6 months up there if he could help. So I just wired Sears and asked him if I could rescind my resignation and return to work at the end of my vacation. I took my vacation, you see, went up there. They were supposed to give him a notification way ahead of time when I was going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wired me back, and I have a copy of the wire. I still have it. To return to work at the end of my vacation.
Okay, now let me get you back to this, because you were starting to describe this little building where the first transmitter was. Now, it no longer exists.
No.
So the only thing we have to go on
it's all torn up.
is your recollection of the people that were there, that knew it, that built it, that put it up. You said it was colored pink. What was it made of?
It was made of cement blocks.
Was it a very big place?
I would say that the room in there was about 12 by 14.
Was it
about 14 foot deep, and you entered from the south side. The door was on the south, and right alongside was the garage, which was no more or less than the cement wall in back and the cement wall on the side, no door, just so you could drive your car in there out of the sun.
Do you
just
know
for one car?
Do you know if the building was built just for the transmitter?
It was just built for that particular purpose.
I see.
And also the tower that was put up there for the transmitter, that was put in, and they had to dig into the side of the hill. They dug a trench down there about 15 feet deep. And they went down to the junkyards and got all kinds of radiators and a lot of old copper tubing and tied them all together. And we had to go out there, and they had a hydrant brought right to where that was. And they had a big 4-inch pipe going down into it against the radiators, and we had to turn on the water there and wait till it came out the side of the hill to be sure to keep things wet for a good ground up there.
Oh, I
it's
see.
Up high, see.
The copper then was to ensure good ground.
Yeah. And we had to keep it moist.
Was that the first antenna used?
Oh, yes.
There was no other antenna at the
Oh, no.
time.
No.
How big an antenna did they have to put up there in order to get to the...
Well, that's a vertical. Nothing but a pole. Right straight up in the air.
Straight up in the air, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's most all of our police transmitters for a good many years. In fact, right now, the of course, naturally, antennas are on high frequency now, so they don't have to have anything like that. But they, most all of them use nothing more or less than a straight mast. I don't know whether I have a picture of the. We got now the instantaneous pictures. You tear them apart.
Polaroid.
Polaroid. All right. He's the guy that came out with the first of the color pictures. His first camera had 3 negatives, and he had lenses on it, and he done the experimenting on that, and then he came out with this new stuff, and I think he sold to Polaroid. He sold it to him. He was quite an inventor anyway, quite a guy. Quite an engineer.
Do you believe his last name was Thompson or Williams or what?
It wasn't Williams, it was Thompson.
Thompson.
Yes, his name was Thompson.
Is that right?
And if you know Julius, he used to do the fire department up there in the fire control building. We finally moved the transmitter into the fire control building, you know, after that bunch came down from the IWWs, the Wobblies came down, you know, and we had all the trouble down there. Why, they got busy to get it out of there so as to have better protection because of the fact all we had was a sawed-off shotgun sitting in the corner and a 38. And if you're sitting there working, why, we had to keep the door locked. If you're sitting there working and somebody come up and covered your gun, it wouldn't do you any good to pick up a gun.
Yeah.
Too late then.
Well, when someone called in a need for a policeman, and they got it at the station, did they telephoned you at first?
We had an open line to the police department all the time. It was we were an extension up there.
I think.
You just pick up the phone and you had the operator upstairs. Mrs. Parrott was a telephone operator, and Mr. Parrott was one of your old original police officers who used to ride a bicycle down there. And he was a captain when I went down there. And Captain Neely was in charge of the watch at one time when I was down there, but he wasn't on when I first went on. But he was at something else.
When they got this call for a policeman, then they would telephone it up to you at the shack.
That's right, up there at Balboa Park, and just give us information.
All right, now you put it out twice then, did you?
Yeah, we put it out and repeated the address to them, and then we go ahead and repeat it again.
I see. And when you called one of these cars, now I worked with one of the officers who who had one of the first radio cars, and he tells me that the first receivers were put in a Model A Ford, and he had one of the Model A's, was mounted up above
Speaker was up above. The receiver was mounted underneath on the firewall, the same as they mounted all receivers in those days.
Yeah, he was saying
and they were Philcos.
Philco radio?
Modified, you might say, of a Philco patent. They weren't Philco because this Thompson built them too. He built them, built all the receivers.
He was saying that the speaker was up above. Like
yeah, speaker was put up on the
that it made
top of the windshield.
It made an awful lot of noise, and he heard that it didn't have any squelch apparently to keep it quiet while it wasn't running.
The squelch, as his description, is all right. When it didn't work right, when something went wrong, why the squelch was open. And they did have that trouble with the squelch opening up. That was one of the difficulties with the receivers, that you had no control of the squelch because it was a fixed squelch. You put it in there and adjusted it, and it was supposed to stay in adjustment. Well, it didn't. But it did have a squelch. They all had a squelch.
Even the very first one.
Yeah. Yeah, they had squelch on them.
He said that the message would be put out twice, and that at times, depending on where they were, they wouldn't always hear it, and would sometimes have to call in.
That's right.
And ask what was said because they.
That's right. They would. And
but this Thompson built the first transmitter. Then did he actually build it at his house?
No, he had a shop and a laboratory that he had built out back. That was went clean back out to the alley. I was out there. I went up to this place, and he had a real beautiful manufacturing plant, you might say, that he built out back there. He had a a building that must have been 40 feet long, and 15 feet deep, and big doors on the side that were up at the level of a truck. When they went up the alley, they could pull right in there, back right up against the place, and unload right on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he built that. He built it to really do work, and he had camera gear in there, and then he had all kinds of lathes and drill presses and stuff that he put in, and he was quite a...
What part of town did he live in?
He lived, seems to me, oh darn, I was up there 2 or 3 times. I just don't remember now what part of town you would call it up there. He lived, it was just east of Balboa Park, you might say, right in that area there.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
I'll tell you another guy.
Do you know if he's still living, by the way?
Oh, I think he is. I think he is.
I'll have to see what I can do about finding him, if possible.
I'll tell you another guy that might be able to tell you a few things about the radio too. You might, have you talked to Tom Crawford?
Not yet, although I've been told that he...
Well, I saw him night before last. I was down to a Dryas doings, and he was there and he came over and talked to him. So, he's one of the old timers.
When did they move the transmitter from this blockhouse over to the fire alarm station? Was that where it was moved to?
Yes. Yes, it was moved into the fire alarm station. And at the same time when they moved it into the fire alarm station, they moved all the operators into the police department down on 3rd Street. The old police department down there where the jail was on. You had a kind of an alley that came in, dead-ended alley came into the police station. And, the first part of the building was out toward the street was the captain's office. And when you went by that, there was a door, and right in that door, it was really a hallway, and that's where they put the operator. And then in beyond that was the police surgeon's place. And he had a table in there, and operating table, and all this other junk, you know.
Well, didn't the operator have these facilities and have the actual radio right there in the fire alarm station? I have a picture of it up there. Wasn't it operated there for a little while first?
Yeah, for a little while. We operated from up there. When they first moved it over there, we operated from up there in the fire alarm building.
Yeah, and then you moved down to the second
Then they
street.
moved us down, the operators down to the station when they began to put it on complete remote control. No, we worked up there in the fire alarm building for a long time, and naturally, anytime they had a fire, why, it was a mess up there at night.
Because it'd be ringing like mad, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
For one thing.
And they'd hear a lot of other stations down here, you know, on the cars. In fact, some of the cars, Pennsylvania used to come in on the cars, you know, every once in a while. You get this skip, and it was really something.
Yes, I can believe that. But the use of the doorbell ringer was the first time what you used to preface the call to get the attention, like now they use a beep.
That's right. That's right. Now, ordinarily, where I work at the end, we didn't do anything about, the fire control building. You got a picture of it before they put the fence around it, too. That's back in the old days. Now, our transmitting room was in the opposite corner from here, right back over here in this corner, the very corner. Opposite from here, right?
On that side, on the north side of the building.
Yeah, on the northeast side. And this pole is out across the parking, because if you go out there, that's all cemented in and back. It was a great big cement place there, and they put this pole out back of the building. It's setting back, as far as from here to your car, a little further from the building. This pole is here. And you'll notice that pole is guide there with insulated wires, and there's no other wires on the pole at all. This is the antenna fastened to the side of the pole.
Yeah.
And it just goes straight up, and that's all there is to it.
I got a picture
What
of
they
it.
call a center fed Hertz. That's in the early days of it. I haven't got one of those.
Oh, here's what I want to show. There's a picture of the transmitter in 1935. That is the radio console.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
I've got another picture
Now,
that someone, this same photographer, stood over in this corner and took a picture of the front here, and it looks like these are little glass windows. That look
they
in-
are. These are glass over the top, and in behind these, you can see the panel that's got the meters on.
Okay.
And all the meters are in there. And this glass is just on this outer panel to try and keep them clean, you know. Keep
Now this-
clean off the front of it.
This equipment that we're looking at in this picture, this number 29, was it the same equipment that was used in the little blockhouse, or was it modernized? Was there something different about it?
This has been changed, and one more unit's been added. Originally, there was just the 2 units. But you can see these big tubes in here.
Yeah.
Well, those 2 tubes were in the original equipment.
That's it.
This whole unit on this side was the original equipment, part of the original equipment.
Was,
And it's been modernized a little bit more, that's all. Been changed a little bit. They made some changes when they moved in over there.
was this console on the desk? Was it the same one that you started with in 1932? And the microphone setup and so forth. Does this look the same to you?
The microphone setup is, yes. That's the microphone we originally started with. And I think that console is the original console. I don't believe there's any change there at all. I think that was just moved over.
I noticed there's what looks like a speaker here.
There is a speaker there because it's the receiver. The tuning receiver, so you can tune in on the Santa Ana and stuff like that, because we weren't supposed to go on the air when Santa Ana was on the air.
Oh, I see.
We had to wait when we heard them on the air. Well, we'd wait till they went off, and then we'd throw the switch on and go on the air.
Well, looking
We're
at
on the same frequency.
it, my first conclusion was that this was an intercom between you and the station, and they would tell you what.
They changed this over to an intercom, and this was a combination. As I remember, it was changed. It might have been at this time. This was a combination intercom and a receiver.
Do you have any idea?
The switch. You had a switch here to change it to make changes. See if you can make out the labeling on some of those switches up there.
No, I can't quite, but I think probably one's a voltmeter, but
Oh, these are meters, of course, but
right down here, this one?
yeah, what's that saying?
Oh, I can't make it out. It's not that clear.
It seems to me that there's we had a switch on here to change the function of this thing. Now, in amongst my stuff, I have the circuit on this thing here.
You do?
Yeah, I got it.
Beautiful.
You know, most of my stuff here somewhere.
Do you have any idea where any of this equipment might be today? That microphone?
Eddie Simon should be able to tell about that, because Eddie came on down there. I'm pretty sure Eddie was on down there when that thing was done away with, and they changed over and put in a new rack behind here and put in all the controls that went from the station.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as this is concerned, I have a brass plate with KGZD on. It used to be on the back of my car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I still have it. It's out in the mud. Unless I cut it up, I don't believe I did.
When you first started broadcasting in 1932, did you broadcast on 2490 kilocycles?
Yep.
It stayed that right from the beginning then?
It was a 2490 that was the original license when we first got a license. 2490. It stayed 2490 until you went ultra high. Went FM, in other words.
Yeah, because this is kind of puzzling to me.
And the highway patrol was 1682.
What was? I read a little story about it, but it gave it in meters, and I didn't.
AM.
For the AM frequency.
Well, you know, at that time, most all of your people were going by meters, saying that it was on 200 meters and all that stuff, and using meters on a lot of stuff because they'd used it up until the time they finally decided that the best way to do it was to use the frequency, which is the way you measure it anyway.
I was I thought got the idea that perhaps the description of we broadcast on a certain meter band was that this was a European description, and that we were using we described it in the United States like pounds and other things, that we used to describe it as kilocycles, 1,000 cycles per second they were transmitting on.
Well,
2490, even 2490 means 22,490 cycles per second. And I didn't ever fully understand what this meant, or maybe I don't even today, until I got my first hi-fi set and began to dabble in this and and understand.
well, that's thousands of cycles. That's true. You just add 3 zeros to it to get to when you have kilocycles. Megacycles are in millions of cycles. So, at the present time, you're on 132 megacycles. That means 132 million cycles. With a decimal point, whatever it goes up to get the exact figure.
Well, our master transmitter, we're transmitting on 158.97 megacycles.
Well, that's 158 million.
Yeah, and we're expecting to get another one. We hope we think that they're going to release another one to us, and so we'll have another master call-out frequency, and we have a third callback frequency at the time that we're not using. We'll hope to split the city in two and get a little bit more time on the air. We're so strapped for time. We've got so many people out there using that radio that it's really difficult.
Well, you're just about down the stage down to what it used to be on Halloween Eve. You don't have that anymore. Because I don't know what's happened, but it used to be when we were down there Halloween Eve, why it was just a continual transmitter was on the air all the time. It just announced the time and the station call letters every half hour and kept on talking.
Did you use much code when you first started?
No.
Very first started.
No.
What was a typical example of the way you'd give a call to say a downtown car regarding a drunk brawl or a fight at 4th and F, something like this?
Well, just call car 21 and repeat your call to him and tell him 4th and F, a drunk.
A drunk fight or a drunk brawl. Just use English and.
Yeah, but you'd abbreviate it as much as possible. Don't put out any excess yak, in other words. Mm-hmm. You kept everything as brief as possible. For instance, when Kazan's drugstore was held up, that was our first big case that justified the radio. Was when Kazan's drugstore was held up on 5th and Laurel. There's a drugstore on the corner of 5th and Laurel. As it happened, Kazan's is a stamp collector. He's a little fella. And he's dead now, undoubtedly. And the drugstore had when you went in, over on the right was a big showcase with candies. Over on the left was the old-fashioned soda fountain, with the marble top and all that stuff. And then when you got to the back, there was a counter across there that he kept all kinds of stuff in, like a drugstore does. And then behind that, he had a big roll-top desk and a chair. He used to sit down back where he made prescriptions. He had a friend of his in there with him, and he was showing him some of his stamps. When these two guys came in the door, and one of them came in, the girl out there at the soda fountain, the first thing he heard was one of the guys banged on the counter. He says, "This is a hold-up, put him up." So he ducked down and ran right out the back door and went across the street and called the police department. They didn't see him go. The other guy was still there. He got caught, see? This other guy came back there and made him lay down on his face and so on and so forth. So I put out a call to 19, 20, and one other car. That the hold up in progress. I gave him the address and told him hold up in progress. Well, it happened to be that two officers in 19 were just a block away at a call box calling in. So they just came out on over, and they saw the car setting up Fifth Street just beyond there, but they didn't think anything about it, and they started to go in the store. And they both pulled a gun, of course, because they realized what was going on. They could see him in there. And so they went in there to get this guy, and one of the guys ducked in behind the desk down there, and he shot at, what was the officer's name? A big, tall fellow. Anyhow, it hit the the showcase where the candy was, right at the glass edge right here, right in the glass. And it went like this around the glass. And just threw glass all over that upper layer of candy. And he ducked down behind it and took 2 shots at this guy and went right through the desk, and he got him. And but then when he went around the other side, why the guy was trying to pick up his gun to fire at him, and he had to hit him again. The other guy threw his gun down and stood up there with his hands in the air. But that was our first big case that we took, was the Kazan's drugstore. And that was written up in the paper pretty heavy, because that was justification for putting the radio in. And old Kazan's, he was tickled pink.
During the time that you were with the PD and operating the radio, who did you work for, incidentally? Did you work for any particular person? Since we didn't have a business office and a communication, was there some particular person that you worked for? You and Vern?
We worked under the captain of the shift that we were on.
That's I figured. Just about the way it had to be.
We both carried badges. I had badge 233. Look it up down there. I had number 233 at the time.
Was it a regular policeman's badge?
Regular policeman's badge, absolutely. No different from anybody else.
Was there any one particular
I have
thing?
my oath where I was sworn in as a member of the police department.
Was there any one particular thing that stands out in your mind in the relatively short time that you were with us, really?
Well, I was there 32 to 38.
32 to 38. Other than this hold-up...
Big robber that had hundreds of thousands of dollars in jewels came down. He'd been on the wanted list for a long time. But he would remember anything that ever happened. His memory was phenomenal. I never saw a man like it. So he had, naturally, every morning he'd look over the wanted pictures, turn them back in again. He'd remember every one he saw. If he ever ran into anybody like that, well, he ran into this man up here in the hotel on 5th Street, I think it was. He went in through the lobby there, just looking around, which he usually did. He saw this fellow, so I just picked him up. I put up an argument, but he took him down to the station and broke out the print, took him up in the ID, and he was him. They had the man. He was him. Mm-hmm. And another thing he did, that an officer came out here on vacation from New York, worked on the New York Police Department. Johnny Kane.
Johnny Kane? Yeah.
Lieutenant Johnny Kane. Most phenomenal memory of any man that ever was on this police department. This officer came out from New York on vacation. Naturally, he came into the police department. Captain Neely was the captain on the ship. Captain Neely and Kane were on that ship. So Captain Neely called in Kane, who was field lieutenant. He was out in the car running around, just field lieutenant, and introduced him and told him to take him around and show him the department. So Johnny did. He took him up around the station, took him all over the station, and took him in his car and took him out for a ride. So he'd see what the score was, and they talked for a while. So this officer thanked him very much and hoped to see him again. He was going back to New York. About 3 years later, this same fellow came on from New York, and when he walked in the police station, Johnny Kane was there, and he got up and called him by name and shook hands with him.
Yeah. There's quite a
That's a phenomenal memory.
Yeah, it is.
And but the things that he done, for instance, they arrested as to car 17. We put the call out to 17. That 28 up there is what 28 had to say.
Oh, I see. Now, if the
in parentheses, we didn't put it out. In other words, the FCC looks at the log. Anything that's in parentheses is information.
It's an incoming message.
It has to be information. We didn't have anything to do with it. It didn't go over the air. Anything is clean. In other words, we put down 17, return to the station. That means that is what we said. Okay. That's part of the log. The other stuff is information in parentheses. You can put anything in a log and put it in parentheses.
But even then, though, when the cars called you were required to write down what they said.
Oh, yeah, we had to. Otherwise, we didn't have a record.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wrote down enough to recognize it. We didn't have to put down the whole message.
Did they ever keep any of those logs?
I don't know how far back to go. We've got
5 years
we've
was
got,
what the original was.
See, we've got cards now, and before that we had another type of a card. We've had cards for a long time. There's thousands and thousands of them. They were putting them into a machine when I came along. In 51, Vern Thompson would sit there, snap them into this machine, and he would stamp the date and the time, and then they had some code printed on it, like 1019, then come back to the station. He'd just circle the thing that said 1019, and over in the left-hand column, he wrote down whatever unit told him this. And he had one spot on the card for incoming messages and one for what he said. And it was divided so that it would save his time. But it was quite a thing there.
Oh, I
It
know.
wasn't what you'd call a blockhouse. It was a nice little building. It had windows, great big windows with drapes. And during the big earthquake that shook all the gingerbread off the front of the buildings in Long Beach, why, it put a crack about that wide, pulled the garage off to one side, put a great big crack down through it, and I was on duty at the time. The curtains up there that were on the east side just swung in and stood about like this, all the while that thing was shaking. And there was no wind, yet those big drapes were hanging back in here, so they were at least 3 feet away from the wall on the base, so as if the building was tipped over like that, and stayed there. That was the darndest sensation I ever saw. I was on duty at the time that happened up there.
You mentioned that it was pink in color.
Yes, it was well, like you see some of these houses, these pink places, they painted it that color on the outside, and of course the roof was dark color, it wasn't painted.
One of the little aspects, something that you did mention that I don't have straight, and you were saying that when we first started broadcasting, I get the idea that you were playing music to occupy the time between broadcasts.
To keep it, right? No, we weren't, there was no cars out on beats, and it wasn't being used for that. The station was being run as a test, to test the station and keep it on the air continuously, just announce. And so we were using records, because we couldn't continually talk all the time and say nothing. So we played records over the air, so that the police cars, the chief and the chief of detectives and all the cars they had that were radio equipped, they were just riding around to see how it came in all over the city, taking it to different localities to get an idea of what kind of reception they were going to get. And therefore we just played music continuously.
How long did that go on until you decided that the reception was reasonable?
Well, we played them from 2 o'clock in the afternoon and right straight on through, and when I was relieved they were still playing.
And you just take off the record and turn it
until
down?
they got, just as soon as the record was done, we put another one on, continue on playing. We'd announce the call letters to the station every time, see, and put it down the lawn.
And if you had got a radio call to go out to one of the people,
there wasn't any radio calls then, as I say, because there was no cars assigned to duty at all, because all the cars were being used for testing by officials of the police department.
Prior to December 1st of 32?
Prior to the date of putting it in actual operation.
I see.
This testing, when I went on, it didn't go on the air officially for police work on the day we went to work. Let's put it that way.
I see.
The first day that we went on, this December 1st of 32, it seems to me that it was before that. But you can check records and find out. There's no argument about that. But it seems to me it was before December 1st, 32. But, and another thing, when we started down there, they started us, they didn't have any money in the budget to pay salaries. So they had some money left to buy automobiles that they hadn't bought yet. And so they took that money and set it up to take care until the start of the next fiscal year. Well, the money that they had would only allow a pay of $60 a month. And that wasn't what the job was set up for. And by the way, I made number 1 on the list for the civil service exam for the job down there. And you can find that out in civil service. But the chief called us in and said that all he could do was give us $60 a month to start, because that was all the money they had. But when the new budget was set up, we would be put where we belong. the salary be put up. So we took it. And lo and behold, when they put in the new budget, they weren't going to put any increase at all. We had to go to civil service and fight. The chief had never done anything for us at all. We had to go to civil service, and from the time I went to work there, every single year, in order to get any increase at all, we had to go to civil service to get it because the chief would never recommend it. He never recommended an increase for any of the operators. And that really kind of got under the skin. And that was the main reason I left, really, was I was getting sick and tired of going through that rigmarole.
Yeah.
Mr. Kenny, did you ever get a picture of Vern Thompson?
I've got several, and I've got several good pictures in our file of him at the console, but I don't have a real early picture like I have of him, see.
You know, Bert, I think among your little pictures somewhere, you also, I seem to remember a small picture of Vern Thompson sitting at the radio, at this case, SBO or whatever it is.
If you do, I'll be tickled to
you
death.
know, when he gets a chance to go through all that stuff, he may run across that.
No.
I may be mistaken, Bert, but it seems like I remember it.
When I see Mrs. Thompson,
Stay down.
I may be able to, she may have something, I don't know. I'm hoping that she's still living up there on Albatross. I think it's 3786 Albatross is where they lived when he died. I've got to get up and see her.
Well, she might have something, but if, in fact, I'm sure she would.
Yeah, I would think so.
But if we run across anything like that, too, Bert can save it out.
Right.
What was that Thompson's name that built the transmitter? What was his first name? He was a big, tall, good-looking fellow.
Oh, dear, I don't know, Bert.
When the transmitter was moved from out on the point over to that new location, he built that transmitter over there that you have the picture of, with the exception of he remodeled it a little bit and put it in the same cabinet over there. It was changed over, but he had it all ready to go, so that I forget how long we were off the air now. We were off the air for a little while it was being done, but it wasn't very long. And but he remodeled that. And he also gave later on, gave the fire department a microphone out there that they could put out fire calls.
I have a picture of the fire department's first transmitter, and it looks very similar to the one that we see here in the fire department's, in the fire alarm station. It's facing a different wall than what you use.
Oh, well,
but later on
if you're talking about one of those transmitters, like
On Sunday morning, May 7th, 1967, at 9:15 a.m., I made a call back to the home of Herbert A. Holcomb, 9835 Murray Drive, Fletcher Hills, San Diego, for a second interview.
Well, I have one of those.
that's down at the police department.
Yeah, this is a better one than I have. And no, I haven't seen this picture.
That's
Okay, now tell me about this picture.
Well, that picture is one that was taken of Vern after they moved down to the police department. Upstairs there, you know, where you went up that ramp to go upstairs to go up to the dispatch room.
Yeah.
And that was taken up there. And of course, that was taken after I went to the States, so that had to be after 1938.
Right.
And you might find a calendar there.
I don't see it in there. I talked to Mrs. Thompson yesterday, and she gave me two photos. One of them was just like this, but it was darker, not as good a photo as this.
Well, do you know what date it is?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't know the date.
Well, it has to be after 1938 because Vern gave it to me. he gave me that picture.
Beautiful.
And this one here, oh no, you wouldn't want that one.
Yeah.
That one was in the Sacramento paper. That's when after I was with the state. That's up with the state up there. That's the state radio station in the.
When you joined the CXT?
Yeah, that was in the building. Up in Sacramento, up there in Department of Motor Vehicles.
About what time was this taken?
Yeah, it was taken. Let's see, I went up there in 38. That was the 39.
I'd like to have I'd like to copy this one.
Okay, okay. That was taken in 1939, and that is at let's see, KADJ.
KADJ.
We'll be sure now. I believe so. Sacramento.
What's this little shot of?
That's a shot of the old transmitter over in the old building. I'm pretty sure that should have a date on it. They usually date these things when they put this band around.
You mean here in San Diego?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's San Diego. I think if you look at it closely, you'll see the call letters. That's the microphone that you see in the right here. The same microphone, see?
Well, by God, what is it?
See?
I didn't see it at
That
first.
microphone?
I didn't see it at first, but it's right there.
Sure.
At the close-up, and you can look at it with this glass, and you can see it'll hold the picture so you can focus it. You can tell a little better. You might even find it easier to walk into the light with it. Oh yeah. Can you tell me what the dials are? For instance, is that one in the center a clock? It looks like it.
Yeah, the top one here is a clock. Above the microphone, that's the clock. And that shows the time it was taken right there, because that clock was running.
Okay, what's to the left and right of it?
Well, the left and right, I think those are the input stage of the transmitter. And this is over on the final stage cabinet. It shows the thermal voltages and the type voltage and all the voltages on everything. And the drive voltage is going into each stage. And these are the tuning controls on these are the final meters on the final part of the transmitter.
It says on this little thing up above, I'll read it to you. It says, silence, visiting time limited to 10 minutes. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds all right. And I don't know, but I think this was taken in the old original building. I think this is one of the very first of the pictures that was ever taken. I think the boy that took this picture, I don't remember who it was now, but I think it was taken over there in the building when we were located behind the Belleville Park, behind the hospital.
You look at this picture and tell me she thinks that this is the picture of the blockhouse.
That is.
You think
that is the picture. That's the see, just room for one car, and the road came in. You came up the hill and came in over here, way over here. Then you came in through here, right here. The road split, then came around here, goes all the way around here and back down here. Now, right over here on this side, that'll be Pershing Drive down here.
Over to the right of the picture.
Yes, this face is Pershing Drive, overlooking Pershing Drive.
All right, now that's what I wanted to ask you about the orientation of the picture. Now, this picture, the front door, is it facing north or east or west or what?
It's almost south.
It's almost south.
Yeah. It would be pretty close to south. And
she said that the little Model A Ford in the carport there looked like she thought it was his car, but she wasn't sure. And there's no date on the picture.
That's his car. Yeah, you can look at it. I'm pretty sure it is. Let me see it.
Looks like a Model A with a covered spare tire on the back. It's a little bit distant.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this photo before? Have you ever
No, I've never seen this photo before. No.
Now notice another feature in the picture is the antenna. Now the antenna is made of steel.
Oh yeah, it's a steel tower.
A steel tower, and I noticed that in the picture there are
it's got a
bare spots in the picture.
That's the paint.
That's what
it has to be painted according to the aeronautics. Of course, it could be painted that way. This is red, just like in see the Navy towers over there?
Yeah.
All right. This is white, painted white. These are painted red, and up on top is a light. And that light was 500 watts.
Oh my goodness. How in the world ever changes?
Climb the tower.
Climb the tower, huh?
Sure.
So the white spots are just white.
That's white paint on the metal, that's right. Just like the Navy towers over here are painted.
Yeah.
Now the bottom of that, where it comes down here in the bottom, is a great big ball.
What do you mean a ball?
Well, the ball was set on a great big stud down in the concrete. And then the tower here has the upper part of the ball to set over it. So when the wind blew that tower, if it moved or anything, the base had absolutely no strain on the base in order to have metal fatigue at the base and have the thing collapse.
I see, so that it could sway a little bit safely.
Yes,
It could
it's to prevent metal fatigue at the base. It's the guy wires. Remember this. Anytime you put guy wires on something, and they're any length, when they're cold, they're taut.
Yeah.
When they warm up, they stretch.
Yes, sir.
All right. During the warm part of the day, suppose the wind gets pretty strong.
Yeah.
That tower's going to move. There's no way you can stop it. Okay? It's going to start moving. And therefore, the place that would get all of the strain would be at the base, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. All right, you get metal fatigue. Yeah. You keep bending a piece of metal back and forth, and it's finally going to break off. Well, that's the reason for the ball on the bottom.
Okay, now, you said that...
Tile roof.
You had a red tile roof. You said that
This is the only door.
you were on duty at the time when there was an earthquake there that
Yeah.
put a great big crack in the front.
Yeah, right in the back here, right here, right through the back in there, why it was a step cracked. In other words, it matched the concrete blocks. Those are those concrete blocks that are about that long, and stand about that high, and they're about that thick.
Yeah.
And that's the way that thing was built. The whole thing is built of concrete blocks.
Sounds like about 8 by 8 by 16.
Yes,
Real big.
that's about it.
That's a pretty good picture of it, I thought.
Yeah, that's a darn nice
I
picture.
was very fortunate to get that.
Yeah.
And of course, her other picture is just like yours, but it's just too dark. Notice how the print didn't come out as light as yours did.
Oh, yeah.
Yours will make a much better copy.
Uh-huh.
So I'd like to take yours
Yeah.
if you'll let me.
Sure.
And I'm going to have a copy of me of this.
Yeah.
Now, I've
Yeah,
got
I'd like a copy of that,
You want a copy of that?
building. Yeah, I really like that.
I'll fix you up. Now, this is what I did with your beacons map. The only way I could reproduce it, I tried it on the Xerox machine.
Hey,
was-
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here's that map. Yeah, which is a later one, older one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, now I want to see if it matches. Because this is an older map.
Oh, that's wonderful.
This is older. This map is dated 1933, edition of April 1933. So this is the first layout of our beach when we laid them out.
Oh, this is what I was looking for.
Now here is the beach, the downtown beach, where you had walking men on them. They're all laid out. 1, 4,
Oh, I
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, there's 10 of them in the downtown area, in Area 21.
Oh, this is wonderful.
Now, the blue figures are the figures for the normal shift. Where they before they had you going to be careful. Now the blue figures are doing daylight hours. Let's put it that way. You know, from 2 o'clock on until they needed the double shift.
Right.
And then the red figures came on later.
I see. Was that the supplemental shift that came on about 8 o'clock in the evening?
They usually came on about 6, I think it was. You see, we didn't run according to the shifts because we went to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and ran till 6 in the morning. For your regular shifts, ran midnight. Well, there's your shifts. I got them for you here.
Good.
And these were dated, this is June of 1938, the whole month. All 3 shifts are there with the names of every man, and I'll explain to you what some of that stuff means.
Okay.
I can explain it off this one. This is May. This is the next month's shift for May 4. Now, all these same men are on there. See? Now, this here is the car number, I believe. No, beat number. The beat number, see? Or whatever beat they're called. Now, you've got your car number here, and these cars, in here, every once in a while you find that there's a pencil put in. Well, they didn't use the car that was put in for them.
Does this mean that this is the equipment number 48?
Yeah.
That's B12.
Yeah. That's right. You call them car 12. But the car number that they were using is this car here, see?
Where there are two numbers, would that mean, for instance, do they have roll call?
Yeah.
Do they have to tell you what car
Yeah,
it is?
that's right. They had to tell us what car they were in. Now, each car had its individual license. The FCC issued licenses. Now the license is W6XNK for this car 281, see? Well, these are XNs, all of them, and XNNI, XNNJ, XNLY, and they were all experimental calls. All your calls were experimental amateur licenses, you might say. Where they had where they put in the stuff on the car.
Now that's when the cars had transmitters.
Yes, they put a transmitter very shortly. See, it didn't take too long before we got transmitters there.
I need to bring a picture of that.
Well, you want to see the transmitter?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get. No, wait a minute. I'll show you the motorcycle. These were put on. These were the motorcycle. This is a motorcycle receiver. It goes on the handlebars. Yeah. It went right up on the handlebar, and the power supply was down the saddlebag, alongside the saddlebag. A very small thing. And there's the picture of the transmitter, so you can see how the replacement of all parts. In other words, those things are almost full size. Pretty close. 35.
That's I think we've got these pictures in his.
You should have those out of the city shops because that was built at the city shop.
Yes, I think we do.
All right. Now those were in existence in 37 or 38 because I came down here. I worked there when they were building them.
You mean the motorcycles?
Yes. Well, I went to work for the state in 38. But all right, I had nothing to do with them. I worked on building. I'd come down here and built one of these to put on a motorcycle for the highway patrol. Well, then up in Sacramento, they paid me. I was down here for a week building one of these.
After we got the receivers in the cars settled, and they got transmitters in the cars, then they put receivers in the motorcycle. Is that right? First, they put receivers in the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Do you know if there were transmitters in the motorcycle?
No, there was no transmitter then.
I didn't think there was.
Because they didn't have battery enough to carry it. Yeah. You have trouble enough right now. You run a motorcycle out here, and if you run the motorcycle like they did, they use motorcycles at night too, you know. Uh-huh. And a lot of them had to drive on well after dark. That'll flip over, I think, if we force it a little bit. If it comes off, we don't worry about it.
It was supposed to.
Yeah.
No. Well, I'll tell you, it's possible if they don't have this picture. If you let me take this, I'll take it and show it to Eddie Simmons. And if he doesn't have it,
see if he's got those pictures. He should have them.
If he doesn't, we'll make copies.
Yes, okay.
That's wonderful.
You can fold the other stuff right in there if you want to take that too.
Well, I brought this back to you, and I wanted to show you what I did. I'm real thrilled that you have that one because it's even earlier. And I was in a spot, there's no way to copy it. So I had to take this to Rodney Stokes, and it's quite extensive. This black thing is a negative.
Oh, yeah.
Which they made for me. And these are the copies.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a pretty decent copy.
Yeah.
And you can even read he made it down here.
Yeah.
But what I was going to ask you is, would you consider letting me have the original if I give you one of these copies?
Oh, sure.
Because the original makes a better display. One of the problems here in copying is that you use a red pencil, and getting the color is just impossible on these photocopying machines. Unless you use a great big giant, perhaps a giant color piece of film. You might be able to do it.
Well, this one here, you see, would have copied a whole lot better because look at this was using the color here shows up because it's so heavy a pencil. See. Now let's compare that with that one there for
put it on the floor. And we can.
Okay,
I think we can see a little better.
Let's do that. Let's compare them. I'll get back.
Now over here, I think one of the first things that I see is that out in Point Loma, the beat was bigger in the earlier map that you have here, 1933.
Yeah.
It seems to go all the way over to U.S. Marine Base,
Yeah.
Old Town
And
here,
it goes all the way up here, see, because there's nothing else above here.
Unit 25.
Yeah. Now, let's see if I got it on the back of this. Oh, yeah, that's very well. No, 25 had to cover that too.
So Unit 25 took in all of
Put in the whole beach.
Ocean Beach, Mission Beach,
Took in the
Pacific Beach,
beach.
and La Jolla.
Took in the whole works. Just went all the way up. And then, of course, this car 20, he split 19 at night, see? Because it's this is, you can see the blue line here, see it? That's why the blue line is drawn around any blue one. Because anytime you get a blue one, why, he covers the whole thing unless a red one's on. So that means, in other words, that 19, see the blue line here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the 19 came clean down to here, see it? All the way down here, and of course it went up here then, see? So that meant that that was 19, so it 20 was out. Now 18, you'll notice that if you follow this blue line around, you'll follow it, the blue line will surround 17 and 18, so 17 had to cover 18 streets. See? And 22, if I'm not mistaken, 22 came up here and took in this, so he took in all 23. See? Now this is Lisa's car.
I see in this one was Coronado's head
Yeah.
here too, isn't it?
Yeah. The Mason Coronado.
Very good. I wonder if this 1932 map shows that little road going up there a little better than this smaller map that where the blockhouse was. I'm still having trouble trying to see it in my mind. Well, there's right down in here.
Let's see, where's 16th Street?
See, here's
Oh, here's the station right there. I put it right there. Drew a blue pencil on it.
by golly, it's
So
here.
there's it, right there. That's it. That's the pencil there on. Put it on.
Now, the U.S. Naval Hospital was marked in, and you get it shown a little bit south of there.
It is.
And there's no formal road in there on this map, so it's probably just a dirt road that was pushed in off of the main road, wasn't
There
it?
was a road, yeah. It was a dirt road. Went up through the Eucalyptus trees. And it took off from 16th Street. So, here's 16th Street. All right, it went up here like this, and wound around like this, and went up here like this, and went up here, and came in up here because it went to the right behind here was from here on, right there, coming clean out from the road, and right over here there was a road came in there. You could come in right at the boundary line when you took off from Park Boulevard. You took off right there. All right, that road came in like that, going around here like that, came right on down here. And it went right on down there, and then it turned like this, went around the building, and came right back. Now, this road that came in here, you could come up here, and it brought you in, on this road here. Right in through there. There's quite a little space there, of course. This is so damn wrapped up. But anyway, that road came into this one about here, and then you had to turn back to come back to the station. Because you couldn't get out on that point, because that land fell off this way, as well as this way. It fell off of the, it was out there, it was kind of a point sticking out there like, where the building was. Wait a minute, we went up 18, it wasn't 16.
Well, but
Because here's Pershing Drive.
here's 6.
All right, instead of going up Pershing Drive, when you went up here, you went straight ahead.
You went up to 18. This is 18 right here. You've got the red line on that mark, too.
No, well, the red line is just for beach.
Right, but it follows 18th Street up to where it's going. Now,
Well, if you wanted to go up to the building here, you go up, you go up here as if you're going up Pershing Drive. The only thing is that you wouldn't make that turn. You wouldn't make that turn to go that way. You go right straight ahead and go right up the hill on the dirt road.
would you draw in where you think this, where this road did go up, takes off from the south end there?
As you came up here, you're on 18th Street, you went right up here, and instead of going up Pershing Drive, you went up here like this, and then right here, right about here, this road took off like that. It came up, and it zigzagged back and forth like this, all around in order to get around the trees and go up, and it came up there, and it went right up in here. Now, that went into there. Now this road came in right from there, and then it turned down like that, came down to about here, then went right around our building, and right back to there. Now, right here is the tower. right inside. That tower split, and but the road came up to here. It didn't come up right to the station, so you had to drive back a little bit in order to get to it. Because this thing, that fell off right there from the building. Just shortly down the building, it fell off down the canyon, went all the way down. And it was just a hunk of land standing out there like that from that point.
Well, you have two ways to get in.
When I came from home, I was living at that time up here on 45th Street. And I used to run on in on Adams Avenue and go on right down Park Boulevard. And of course, when I went down Park Boulevard here, why, I go down to here, you see, and then turn in this road here. And one day when I was supposed to open the station at 2 o'clock, I stopped up here at Adams Avenue and parked. And next I got out of my car over on the right, left on the right-hand side, and ran across the street to get some cigarettes. And I ran back, jumped in the car, and took off and drove on down there. When I got down there, I didn't have no keys. I couldn't get in. So I had to race back, and I stopped up here where the store was, and when I reached in my pocket to pull out my keys, the car key, in other words, when I came back from the place there, where I dropped the keys, the station key, down there alongside the curb, and it was there yet. I picked it up and jumped in the car and started back down again. And old Blackie, was going pretty good speed down Park Boulevard. That was when I was making 50. And old Blackie took off after me, chasing me. He never caught me though until we got clean down there where I turned in. Then he followed me all the way in and cussed me out. I've had that a couple of times where I was a little bit late. So he jumped all over me and told me that I was gonna, since I was driving my car and since they were running a screwy schedule and everything else, and things were going the way they were, why, I better get a blue light on the back of the car if I was going to be doing those kind of things, and be darn sure when I was doing that, when I was actually on my way down, to light the darn thing, otherwise never light it. So I did, I put a blue light on, and one of the other patrolmen, he had a conniption fit because I had a blue light on the car.
Very good.
That was a normal system. In fact, all the motorcycles used to carry blue light. And they kept them lit at night for their rear light, so that anybody going along knew that. I don't know whether they do today or not, but they used to have a blue light right on top of fastened, one about that big around, fastened right on the rear license plate. One of the bolts went through there, bolted that light on.
I'll put this over here for you.
Okay.
If I can make a copy of this one, would you consider letting me have the original of this?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because what I'd do is lay it out and iron it flat, and then turn it up and have them make a copy. Maybe the same process will have to be used. And here again, we're using colors. They use colored ink when they printed it. We use crayon, and it shows up real well, but it's just really difficult to photograph something this big.
Well, this is a whole lot better than the other one, though.
It really is.
To take the colors, because that color is more, it's a tougher color. Well, this one is one that I used on there for a while. I made it up and used it.
That's really swell. It makes an awfully good display, really. Now, you have a daily report out here.
Well, that if you'll notice, these things here, after they'd gone over, and that they were something that they didn't care anything about, why those things were just tossed to one side. We used them for scratch paper. So you'll notice that on there, I wrote down at the time these fellows' addresses that were working at the time.
Oh, now
Harry Travis.
This is George Moore.
This is George Moore, yeah.
So he was one of the radio operators?
Yeah, he's one of them.
Yeah. See, I had no idea where he lived.
He lived at 2576 Whiteman
For God's sake.
at that time. And McCartney, he was one of the officers. Here's Johnny Kane, lieutenant he was then, 1244 10th Street at that time. Jack Hammond, he was the one that was shot, and by that Pretty Boy Floyd. You remember that? You ever hear about that incident? Well, Pretty Boy Floyd was on the wanted list. And so they had a drunk check set up, And Jack was sitting no, he wasn't either. He was working down beyond. And when this guy came along, this pretty boy Floyd, he had a Mexican woman with him in his car. And Jack recognized that it was wanted. And so, but he didn't know it was pretty boy Floyd in there, but he knew it was a wanted car, that there was a felony warrant on it. So Jack started to follow him, and when he went through this drunk check, why this guy kept on going, and they were looking at the car anyway. They didn't try and stop him, apparently. And so Jack hollered and waved his hand, wanted somebody to come along with him. And he went after this car, and of course, when they got ahead about 2 or 3 blocks, why the guy saw what was coming, and so he turned off. Jack followed him. He pulled over at the curb and got out of the car. Jack got off on his motorcycle and came over to talk to him and didn't recognize anything. And so the guy grabbed his gun, forced him in the back seat of the car with this Mexican, took him out on Kearney Mesa. He was going to kill him out there, and this Mexican woman tried to argue him out of it, and he took a shot at him, but Jack hit his hand, and the bullet went right through his elbow. And he was retired after that. He was in the hospital for a long time. And they retired him, and then during World War II, Jack went over to England and worked over there with the English before we ever got into it. He was over there working on radio over there, radar and so on and so forth. But of course his arm was gone. He was a ham operator too, you know. But he was an officer.
What is this? Oh, is this the...
That is the intercom system between when they put in the station in the fire control building down to headquarters, down to the police station, the old police station.
Did you make this
and,
drawing?
Yeah. Yeah, I do that. And this whole thing is arranged here. Here's your 110 going in. And this is to talk to them, and when this is down, it's in the receive position, and so your receiver then, you have the line from the receiver comes in here, you see, into this. And this switches it over and puts it through this amplifier. It goes to the speaker.
Well, when this was done, was it much easier for them to tell you very quickly if they had a call?
Oh, yeah. All they had to do was to push the switch down and talk to us. Now, that picture that you have was in the San Diego Sun on Tuesday, December 14th, 1937.
The picture that I have of you at the
No, oh, wait a minute. Yes.
The picture of you
Yes,
at the console?
yeah, that one there. That one, the one that is like this, you know. That you got a picture, and you had a. That one there.
This one of you at the console?
That's right.
Yeah. That's one that Harry Bishop took.
I think Bishop did take it, but nevertheless it was in the San Diego Sun for the issue of Tuesday, December 14th, 1937.
Yeah, that's what
I have the paper itself right up in the attic up there. It's all folded up, the whole paper, and this was in there on the picture section with a whole lot of other pictures of so-called civil defense stuff or something. You know what it was.
Do you have an article in the paper?
There's no article. It's just a sheet of paper with all the pictures on it. All different kinds of pictures.
I brought yours back. We copied them.
Uh-huh.
I didn't find this in the file, but I've got to look again. I've got to go down and look in the library file. I still think we may have the negative there, but otherwise, Simons was very, very much wanted this picture. You know, I told him I'd be glad to make him a copy. And he's been very, very helpful. I brought your pictures back and your license, which I copied. And one of the things that I couldn't quite understand was that I copied both sides. It says on the back, December 31st, 1932 to October 14th, 1935, and it's signed by George Spears, Chief of Police. But he wasn't chief then.
Here.
He must have been acting chief.
See, this license expires 3 years after issue, you'll notice.
Yeah.
All right. So since it expired in November, I had to send it in for renewal.
Oh, I see.
So I have to sign on it there to send it in to get a renewal. I had to have it signed, and I was still there, of course.
Well,
it's one of those screwy things. Say, this thing don't mean anything except to show that I did work there.
Right.
And it was signed by the chief of police. And the funny part of it was that, wait a minute. Did you check up on your dates? Remember, I worked under 5 chiefs of police down there.
Yes, I have the correct date, but you have the right answer. I didn't understand.